Begin. Welcome to the Work In, everyone. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Mira Katyal, and I am so happy to have her on the program today because I have for a long time been very interested in Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine. So let me tell you a little bit about Mira. She comes from a family of 4 doctors of Western medicine. However, it was only when she rediscovered the ancient wisdom of her heritage, echoed time and again through the wise and intuitive, did she start her own personal journey towards health and happiness. After narrowly avoiding becoming a doctor, as gently encouraged by her father, Mira went ahead and studied psychology. Then she obtained her MBA and worked for 2 decades in marketing and customer service. But the work never pulled on her heartstrings. After her own journey into alternative healing, she found her calling and launched her own company, Mira Om, offering education and consultation on healing through emotional de-stress lifestyle therapy. Because the surest way to know you are in or out of balance is through your feelings, Mira says chronic agitated emotions are a sure sign of imbalance. Chronic digestive ailments are another. Mira believes it's time for humanity to re-embrace Mother Nature and her gentle but strict wisdom by aligning Mother Nature's laws to regain mental and physical balance. With the help of Ayurveda, yoga, and yoga therapy, Reiki, lifestyle, and diet, we can have better sleep, more peace of mind, better digestive power, reduced illness, and a greater ability to seize the moment within our circumstances. So let's start our work in today with Mira Katyal. Welcome, Mira. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you for inviting me and spreading the light on Ayurveda.
I am so looking forward to this conversation. So, you come from a family of Western medical docs,
Correct.
and I'm really curious about how your health journey led you to Ayurveda and alternative healing.
It is all the problems, the tiny, tiny problems that we all experience that I went into this because my kids were born in 96. They were twins and they had low immunity. They would fall sick every month. They would have fever, cough, cold. I was unable to give them too much breast milk as well. So I was aware that their immunity is low. So I went to my doctor. I was living away from my family in Dubai in the Middle East. And I said, do you have anything to boost their immunity so that they don't fall so frequently sick? And she did prescribe something, and somehow I just didn't take it. But at that time, Google or whatever, internet was a bit coming up. And I found a lot of knowledge from a well-known prophet, sleeping prophet. He's called Edgar Casey from USA, near Virginia.
Mm.
And he's a hardcore Christian, but when he went under a trance, he would answer any question. And a lot of the stuff he says parallels what Ayurveda says. Anyway, but at that time when I was reading him up, I did not know about Ayurveda, but he did mention a soup or a juice about immunity. So he said if you drink celery, lettuce, and carrot, you can improve your immunity. I still remember thinking that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You know, we are into science and vaccines and antibiotics, and the whole world has progressed. So, how can a carrot improve your immunity? But anyway, being curious and experimental, I did give my kids regular juice. And it took me 3, 4 years to be convinced that this is working because every September, when school opens, there is a flu season.
Mm.
And all the kids, they are tend to get flu from each other. And I noticed that they were not getting the flu, or they were rarely getting it, even though their friends and neighbors and cousins were getting it. And then it's clicked that he's right. I mean, there is something in these 3 vegetables that can help boost your immunity. Then I said, okay, whatever he's saying is, I mean, he hasn't done research in labs or anything, and he had access to this sort of divine source of knowledge. But what he was saying was truthful, based in fact, because if you did it and it worked, that means it's based in truth.
Mm.
And it
That
was a very holistic thing. Then again, I had a lot of stuff like allergies and back pain and yeah, mood, get depressed every now and then with stress. All of these I have one by one used a lot of holistic medicine to turn around. Like my father would just say, take this pill, take that pill. But a lot of it has gone also.
yeah, and it's great that you gave it so much time, first of all, because when you are working holistically, it's not like a pill. You can't just drink a juice once and cure anything. It is how the body takes those nutrients out of the food and then basically does the work for you. It heals itself. We just have to give it what it needs, what it's asking for.
Exactly. There's also another issue I found that now we have a flood of information, and the information is disconnected, and you don't know, you're shooting in the dark. Should I drink this juice? Should I take that protein shake? Should I take a smoothie? So there's nothing behind it which will, unless it's just your personal observation and a trial and error. But Ayurveda doesn't have this trial and error. It has a big theory behind it. It explains how these things work. So you are not doing random things.
Mm. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's just start at the beginning because I don't know how much other people understand about what Ayurveda is. So let's just start at the very, very beginning. Can you explain Ayurveda in a way that maybe someone who's never heard of it can understand? And maybe how it connects to some of these other things that we maybe have heard of, like yoga and some other things.
So India is a very old and spiritual culture. Um, a lot of the knowledge over there came from spiritual sources where you can say hardcore monks, which we call seers or um, yogis, they would meditate for their whole lifetime. And they were devoted to knowledge and they received a lot of information also. It's not just that they invented this or discovered it just by themselves, they were supported. And there was a culture at that old time, maybe 6,000 years ago approximately. And people wrote these scriptures, especially the Vedas. And out of these sciences emerged. Now, the basic theory of binding all of these sciences, whether it's yoga or even I would say in where Eastern astrology, it's called Jyotish, and Ayurveda, they're all linked through the Vedas and the same theory. And it says that this place has been created through the five elements. There's a deep, profound theory behind that. But the thing is that even though it's a beautiful creation, there is a contrast, everything. There is light and dark, pain and happiness, um, uh, heat and cold. And nobody can escape this. But these things are cause happiness as well as suffering, which is like mutual happiness and sadness. But the creator himself doesn't have these sufferings because he's above all this contrast. And so, even though if every creature is born here and can enjoy life, sooner or later they also have to encounter pain. So these systems, like you get sick, were given to mankind to reduce suffering. So Ayurveda is for the body, for body wellness. Yoga is for the mind, and there is also a lot of, we believe in rebirth and karmic cycle, which again is another source of suffering, for that astrology. So Ayurveda focuses more on the body. Ayur means age or your lifespan, and Veda means knowledge. So it is the knowledge of how to improve your longevity and have a high quality life. It is not the attempt to beat death. It is simply to make your life as pleasant as possible while you are on earth.
Mm.
And because the whole universe is composed of the five elements, there is no, It's not going to have a different law in America and a different one in India and a different one on Mars, or it's the same laws throughout the universe. You understand this, the elements, you will understand how your mind works, you will understand how your emotions work, you will understand your body, you will understand nature.
So let's talk about what those elements are. What are those elements that make
So,
everything up?
so first is the space element came into being, which is the universe or the body or a glass, anything which encircles uh, other stuff. Then there's a movement, which is the air element. And then comes when there's friction, fire element is caused. And the fire element produces water element, and the water element produces the earth element, which is matter. Now, these elements can be very gross, where you can touch and feel them, but they can also be so subtle that you can't touch them. They have an intelligence, and they are interdependent on each other, and um, they work in a certain order. Nobody can change that. Creation has created that order. We can either flow with the order or we can go against it. As when you flow with the nature, you are um, in maximum health and happiness. When you move against it, that's when you increase your distress, disease,
Mm.
karmic issues, everything.
Mm. Mm.
So to simplify it, we eat and ingest all these five elements on a daily basis. We breathe air, we drink water, or there's water in our food. We eat food, which is earth element. We have fire in our stomach, which we have to support. Um, I mean, when the oxygen circulates, there's fire. If you have very high fever, that's a very high fire, or you get very cold, then you're losing the fire. So the body has to maintain it actively 24/7.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
And space is our body and our mind or spirit. So subtle. So a body, mind, spirit.
Ah, yes. Okay, so in Ayurveda, how do you how do you learn how to move in flow with nature?
So the first thing is that we all born with a constitution with the five elements, but some of the elements can be more or less. So if you have more of some elements, you will be more prone to imbalance them easily. So the basic thing is first you check the constitution. It's called Prakriti. And there's a quiz and observation and everything. You can check what you are. And then you have to check how much you moved away from it. This is called Vikruti. It's called imbalance.
Mm.
So let me give you an example. Supposing you are a person with a lot of fire in your constitution. Now you can have a lot of mental fire, physical fire, both, or only one of them. So if you have a lot of physical fire, you would like to do a lot of sports, activities, go out, party, you're ambitious, you want to grow. This is all manifestation of the fire element.
Mm.
But if you miss, if you eat spicy food, if you live in a hot country, if you are a workaholic, now the fire will become a wildfire and start burning you.
Mm.
Now, instead of the workaholic working out harder, they have to actually rest.
Mm.
Only then they will come back to balance. So supposing a client come and they have a pitta imbalance, which is the fire one, and they love doing power yoga and running and jogging, I would actually say you have to, take a break. I mean, soften it, go for a walk, go for a swim, and that will affect not only the body, the temperament.
Mm.
They'll stop being so irritable and angry.
So let's talk about what those three constitutions are, and kind of give a little bit of a little explanation about each one. I'm sure people are going to be like, "Ah, ding, 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 that
Yes.
sounds like me."
So very conveniently, the 5 elements are funneled into 3 constitutions. So the vata, which is the thinnest, I'm just going to show you my cups because I've created some characters, So this is the vata person, thin and restless and creative. I like to call her Winnie. So she is made of more of space and air. So she doesn't have that much matter to hold her down. So she can easily get depleted. She can easily get anxious, and she can easily get fearful, worried, neurological disorders, because there's not enough material in her body. So she's too much air and space. Now, if she's going to do something which will increase air, like, for example, if she's going to overthink, or she's going to have too much salad, which is a very light diet, then she's going to increase the vata. And then instead of being anxious or neurological disorders 10 years later, she's going to prepone them to maybe 5 years earlier, just because she's now fanning the wind with her lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So what she needs to do is ground herself, sleep very well. The first thing for a vata person is to protect their sleep regime. Very, very important. Sleep calms down the vata, and they are the first ones to get disordered in sleep. Restless sleep, broken sleep, fidgety. They just don't have good sleep, when they're imbalanced. I'm not talking about a balanced vata. I'm talking about an imbalanced vata. They cannot, they just get very high strung. If there's an exam, they are more hysterical than the average person because they have nothing to hold on to, because it's like they're a kite in the sky. How can they hold on to the ground? So they have to come down, literally, and ground themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll feel the difference. They'll sleep better, their bones will ache less, they'll even feel more cheerful, they'll have less gas in their stomach, because that's another sign of vata, is that you start bloating and become gassy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can feed this from any angle, from your food, from your lifestyle, the way you sleep, the way you think. All of them can just attack your stomach and become gassy, because we don't know how the vata imbalance is going to start showing up. It has so many options inside the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's vata. You talked a little bit about the pitta
So let us do
personality.
that one. I'll just get the
Yes.
other. Yeah, so the pitta is the driven person, and also naturally more males have fire in them. Okay, so this is Pete, and he likes to really excel in everything, whether it's in competitions or in sports or in the organization. He's a good planner. He wants to challenge themselves. Today I'm going to do 2 kilometers. Next day I'm going to do 4 kilometers. Maybe they always have this feeling, what have I done today? What have I achieved today? This is their constant refrain in their mind. They feel dissatisfied a lot. Oh, I have to achieve. They're always like milestone achievers, which is good. We all need to achieve that. But again, when they go into imbalance, then they start like getting acidity. They will have inflammation, skin breakout. They will be very irritable, very angry, very critical. They're just a little bit hard to be around because they just snap at people a lot. People tend to duck them, depending on how much aggravated and how much fire they have. They also cannot sleep well because they're always like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. Their sleep is very short and also disturbed. So everybody will perform much better if they're a balanced version of themselves. Actually, the pitta will achieve far more in life if they're balanced, and so will the vata, and so will the kapha. And they're made of, the pitta is made of the fire and water element. And the last is kapha. Sorry. This is Kathy. So she's made of water and earth. So again, as you can see, she's a little bit more curvaceous because she's well endowed with water and earth elements. So they have soft skin, plump cheeks, they have strong bones, sturdy ankles and joints. They are very peaceful. It's hard to ruffle them, but once they get mad, they get stubborn or they sulk. And it's hard for them to get up in the morning. They want to sleep in, which is not good, of course, because the earth element is heavy. So they don't feel, it's hard for them to get up, walk fast, do everything fast. They're more like a elephant energy, you know? They will do a lot, but don't expect them to be quick. And I like to call the Vata bird, she's everywhere, but don't expect her to pull a load. And Pitta is a lion, the king of the forest, and tells everyone what to do.
So that covers pretty much every personality type
Yes.
that there is. But how do you know? Now, I know very, very fundamental, just a very little bit about how to figure out which constitution you are. But I do know that the way you are now as an adult may not really be your true constitution. So, how do you figure that part out? Where in your history are you looking to find that true constitution?
So the thing is, the constitution per se doesn't change, it just gets imbalanced. So what happens is, you like, for example, if I take my example, I have a lot of vata energy. So in my childhood, it was not a problem. I was very curious. I would climb trees. I was perfectly healthy. So nobody's going to go to a doctor or find out what's my constitution or anything. As I became older, I was a worrywart. It was my habit. Even if you have a problem, I start worrying about it. It was such a inbuilt thing inside me, you know. I was always worrying about all the family members and their problems, and it was such a ingrained habit. You don't even realize who you are because you're not paying attention to it. Also, I love to they're always seeking information and experiences. So I'm always with the 21st century 24/7 media, TV, phone, you always have access to information, and too much information disturbs the vata. That's why ADHD is going up, you know. That's why mental diseases is going up, because everybody is on social media or on the internet, and they're not sleeping. They're doing two things, three things actually: junk food, not sleeping properly within the proper hours, and too much media.
Mm.
So it's inevitable. Everybody is going to have some mental disorder, mental mood disorder.
Mm.
So
Yeah. So what if you have well, here's the question. Here's the question for you. When you described those three constitutions, I feel like for me, I have moved in and out of all of those throughout. So what makes someone balanced?
yeah, constitution. So there are actually 7 combinations. These are the only 3 basic ones. We can be a Vatta Kapha, or we can be a Vatta
Mm.
Pitta. And even each Vata will be different, because one will be more, one will be less. So it's just how much, like if you take this is your body, and you have the elements, 5 elements. Someone has this much earth and only this much air. Someone has this much air and only this much earth. So we are a container with the 5 elements.
Mm.
Now it depends on how much is the proportion of each one, because none of us can survive with the 5 elements. Everybody has a fire and they have a body temperature. Everybody has a body and matter. So everybody has earth. It's just that someone has more and someone has less.
Mm.
Now, how do you know you're imbalanced? You have this list of problems: your digestive system, your sleep, your skin, your movement, your poop, your tongue, your everything, your emotions. So when a proper Ayurveda consultant sits with with their client, it actually takes him almost 2 hours to receive all the information. So because it's showing up in the body, right? So if I'm a Vata person and I have balanced Vata, my skin will not be dry; it will be normal. But the more I have dryness and Vata inside me, the more my skin will become dry. And this has happened to me. I
Mm.
had such I came from Dubai, Middle East to Canada. Canada is a cold country. So cold over here means more Vata. So suddenly my heels and everything became dry. My skin became dry. I remember going to a beautician and she said, "Your skin is so dry. I would put lotion, nothing would happen." And those heels, there was no treatment for them. My husband used to laugh, "You can use the sandpaper to rub
Oh,
down something." And I had used all the things, Burt's Bees, wax something on the thing, or paraffin waxing, or creaming, and scrubbing, and never did it heal. Then I started learning Ayurveda, and my teacher says you should apply sesame oil. Sesame oil is the most um, moisturizing, maximum, densest, heaviest oil. So for vatas, that's a very good oil. And he said, "I have never seen anyone who has not used this for 6 months and their heels don't heal." So I said, "Oh, another one of those fads or myths." But anyway, because I started learning Ayurveda, and I actually threw out all my lotions and I got a bottle of cold pressed sesame oil. And
yeah.
my daughters, they're using these expensive lotions, $100, $80 per bottle, a kit, $500. And I said, throw them all out. Otherwise, they are all useless. Just use natural oil that God made. And they said, "Oh, mama, this, that, blah, blah." Anyway, my skin started improving. I started glowing. My skin, my heels became better. I wish I had taken a photo of the time when my heels were looked like sandpaper. And one fine day, I find that my daughters are using the oil now because they want
Oh.
to get the shiny skin now. And okay, my skin improved. That's fine. But now that I've been doing it for maybe 2+ years, I started noticing other things that even even though I'm not doing hardcore Ayurveda, but somehow my stomach also slightly improved just by applying oil, because now my body didn't fight for moisturizing resources. My skin was okay, so probably the body could devote more moisture to my insides. So it's just that it grows, it feeds. That's why I like Ayurveda. It just doesn't stop because it's done its job for the skin.
Mm.
Because now your water element is fixed over at the skin level, it starts improving inside the body, inside this. So it just builds and builds and builds. It's actually quite fun. I love Ayurveda. It's such a beautiful, loving, healing science. And I say the best place to start Ayurveda is in your kitchen by the
Mm.
homemaker. The biggest guide of Ayurveda that you would put on a pedestal is the homemaker sitting in their kitchen with their foods and ingredients and oils, nourishing the whole family.
So I love that. It is really nourishing, and it's your story completely illustrates how connected everything is. You can't just fix one thing and not have that affect everything.
Exactly.
And the flip side of that, one thing can't be wrong and have it not affect everything else as well. So let's go into a little deeper how our diet, the types of foods that we are putting on our plate can affect that overall balance of our constitution. So a lot of people are out of balance with what they eat. You're in Canada, I'm in the United States, and we in the United States have something called a standard American diet. And that the acronym for that is SAD, sad, and that's what it is. It is very sad.
So is this by the doctor or by the Americans?
By the Americans, this is a sad diet. And it's just all of the way that we process our food here, just regular everyday food. And there's a lot of food politics that has gone on through many, many years, of course. Um, and we don't really have time to get into that side of things. But it's almost like we have removed ourselves from
Nature.
natural food, right? From real whole food. And so let's talk a little bit about how Ayurveda can kind of move people back to that better relationship with just stuff that grows out of the ground, basically.
That's why I call this Ayurveda the Mother Nature is your guru. So there's
Mm.
so many millions and billions of fads out there. So it's hard for people to know what to do, right? Because today this science is saying, someone is saying, do the lettuce diet, do this, do that. There is no theory behind it. But I would say, who created us? Nature. So let us listen to nature. If this Ayurveda fails, go back to your old diet. But first, give nature a chance. So Ayurveda stands on three pillars. The first pillar is food and diet, the second is sleep, and the third is called brahmacharya, which is a kind of restraint or celibacy. And I'll explain the importance of each pillar. The gateway to the body is through the mouth and the stomach. So anything you put inside is going to affect your body composition and how it's going to perform in the long run. So food is one of the biggest pillars, and what you put in your mouth is one very big pillar for your body. The second pillar is sleep, which nourishes the mind and emotions. So if you don't sleep properly, never expect to be feel well emotionally and mentally. You cannot. And the third pillar, now you've taken care of the body through Ayurveda, through food, and you've taken care of the mind and emotions through sleep. And sleep means rest and also deep rest, like meditation and everything. This is not just night sleep. I'm talking about deep, deep rest.
Mm.
Once your body, mind, and emotions is taken care of, the third pillar is your spiritual connection to God, which cannot be obtained unless you follow the rules of nature, which is really restraint. You can't just do anything you want. This is
Mm.
what it is. And practicing that restraint on all the levels is which lifts your spirit and opens your mind and conscious and experience to spiritual experiences, which is impossible without the third pillar.
Mm.
So again, if a person is sick, there's no point in talking about spirituality because it's too far. First, we have to take care of the body. We have to eat every day to maintain our body. If your body dies, your mind and emotions and spirit dies, everything dies together. That's why we first pillar is food, because the body is the container for your mind and emotions and spirit. So once the body is nourished, then we move on. So food is very important. Don't trust anybody except God, I would say, or nature if you don't believe in God. Eat what nature produces as as much as in original condition, and try to make it yourself. When you process food yourself, it's like a love affair with nature and your stomach. When you make your meal, okay, I will give you a challenge. Make one meal yourself from scratch, have that, and then notice how you feel the whole day in your stomach. And then buy a pizza the next day and eat that and notice how your stomach feels the whole day, and even your mind. Just do this experiment. Most of the time, unless you're making exact replica of the pizza, you will feel lighter and better with your own home cooked food. Even a
I
homemade
love that.
pizza is lighter than a.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I personally feel like food is my own love language, and that was a shift. Once I figured that out, I used to just feel like that when I was preparing food for other people, but now I feel like that is across the board, even when I'm preparing a meal for myself, just for myself, if even if I don't have to take care of someone else. And I think that's missing for a lot of people, the way they look at what they put on their plate. is rarely something that they do as an act of love or an act of self-love for themselves.
Very
And I think we lose so much of that connection. And I know a lot of how we eat really is rooted in kind of a relationship, almost a religious relationship with food. And I've had other guests that have said that, changing how you eat can be like changing your religion. And I think for a lot of people, they don't realize how much they associate or identify who they are with how they are eating. And so when it comes to the point where maybe you've visited the doctor and something has to change, you have to change something about what you're doing in order to improve your health in some way, to be able to stay on this planet for a little bit longer, that can be really a shock to the system. Now you have to change everything about, how you shop for food, how you prepare your food, how you eat your food. And I think that word, you've said it several times, the word nourish. And I think that concept is really kind of missing in our dialogue about how we eat. Is is this food actually nourishing us? And you can apply it to those other pillars as
true.
well. Sleep that is nourishing,
Right.
or meditation that is nourishing for the mind. And then when we set boundaries around the things that we do, the things that we consume, the media that we consume, are these things nourishing us in some way? So I think that's a really beautiful piece that I see quite a bit in Ayurveda.
Actually, Ayurveda goes one step further. They're not just talking about how the food nourishes you. They said even the mood of the cook
Mm,
influences the food and that affects the people eating the meal. And so you should not
interesting.
make food when you are very angry. And also, you should not eat food when you're angry because whatever you eat will become poison. Like, not poison in that typical sense. It's just that it will not be digested properly. And when food's not digested properly, it doesn't nourish the blood properly. And that's the whole cycle of disorder starts.
Mm,
So, if eat little bit, but eat good quality food and in a very peaceful place so that 100% goes to nourishing you instead of 50% is burnt off and thrown away. And further, you can use food as a spiritual tool because there is a concept which is called in Ayurveda sattvic. When you start becoming sattvic, you actually start spiritualizing yourself. So food is even a spiritual tool in Ayurveda.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So let's, I mean, touched a little bit on how the constitutions and also how food can kind of affect our mindset and our emotions. So, how can we use these principles to help us with stress levels?
Okay, so for a pitta person, everybody has stress in life. We all agree. There is no place on earth where there's no stress, and there are provocations and triggers. But each person will react to the stress according to their constitution and also according to the level of their aggravation of the constitution. So when I have, supposing all three of us have the same stress, the vata, pitta, and kapha. So the vata will start getting fidgety, high strung, or hysterical, whatever, the pitta will get very angry, very, but it depends, violent even. I mean, depends on how much, what is the composition of fire. And the kapha will withdraw, go into the cave, not come out for maybe 2 days, not shave or eat. So now supposing the kapha person is imbalanced and this of course has a stressful job and then they eat a lot of ice cream at 12 in the night because they're emotionally disturbed, now for sure next day is going to be worse because now you've added more heavy energy into your body, and instead of feeling better you're going to become even more irritable or depressed, whatever. The pitta person is going to have more spicy or fried food, more hot sauces, and that will just flare up his anger more. And the vata person is just going to have some tea, coffee, I don't know what, and just walk around, maybe skip a meal, and be even more agitated and high strung next day. So, what I would say is the first thing when you go to an Ayurvedic psychologist, let's pretend they're a psychologist, they won't first counsel you. They'll first say, okay, take this warm soup, drink it, settle down. Let me oil your back. Let me oil your feet, wrap you in a blanket. Now tell me what is your problem. So, first, they're going to settle the body.
Mm.
So now Pitta person comes to you, and a Pitta people are they don't listen. They cannot hear your viewpoint if it contradicts theirs. They are they are always right in a way. So if you supposing you're married to a Pitta person and you're trying to make a logical argument, mark my words, it's going to fail. So after learning Ayurveda, I understood what to do. Give them something cooling, like a rose drink or something. Say something nice to them, appreciate them, say, oh, you did this was wonderful, you did this wonderful, and now they're relaxed. And then say, you know that issue, very gently in a sweet voice, can we do this? And their guard is down and they might listen to you, but
Mm.
you challenge them, they will run after you. And now they'll
So
come.
it sounds like it sounds like the opposite creates the balance for people.
That is what Ayurveda says. Opposites heal you. The cure
Mhm.
is in the opposite.
Mm. Mhm. So how do you know how much of that opposite that you need without taking you completely into, imbalance the other way, right?
That would be very rare because most of the people succumb to their nature and they just keep
Oh.
doing what their urges are. But as soon as you develop self awareness, self control, and you start doing the opposite, you will start just noticing that your stomach is less disturbed, your sleep is better, your mood is better. And unless you deplete it, it can happen. Especially when you have advanced diseases, you have all the constitutions this imbalanced. So once one is settled, the other one shows up with disorder. Then that's when you were saying, I felt like I have been these things all the time, some of the time. It's because if you have one layer pacified, then the other disturbed layer starts showing up its
Mm.
symptoms. So you have it's not a healing which will happen in one day. It's layered healing, but the middle road is the same for everyone. If you stay within the zone of balance, then everybody feels healthy and happier. There's nothing. It's not that oh, this person will feel more happy. It's just that the balance zone. You have to reach the balance zone. That's all.
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
everybody
Mhm.
feels this, because health and happiness exist in the balanced zone for every creature on earth.
Yeah. And that's actually really good to know, right? I mean, that's really our goal. That's what everybody wants to get back to. We want to feel healthy and happy all the time. That's really why we're seeking so many other things.
It's easy to
So,
understand Ayurveda like a garden. So, some plants need more water, some plants need less water.
mm,
Don't overwater your plant, don't under. And how do you
yes.
know when the plant is healthy? When it's doing well.
Hmm.
When it's
Yeah.
too dry or it starts rotting, it's not doing well. So again, that's too much water or too little water. Again, you're going into the imbalance zone. So this theory works on plants as well, on animals as well.
Hmm.
It works
Mm.
on everything, even on nature. Like if the planet is now becoming too hot, so that's why you're going to have more wildfires. What should Earth do? Too much fire.
Yeah.
So apply.
Yes, it seems like there is so much to know and to understand about Ayurveda.
That's true.
So, how do you start? Where do you just get started if you're interested in kind of moving towards this more natural way of healing? What would you recommend for people who are interested in that?
So actually, there are traditionally two ways. Either people go for a consultation, they tell their problems, then they do whatever is they're told, and they go back to their life without learning about it. Or they go into the education program and then they learn it and they slowly implement it. I think a person, when they come to you, they should start immediately with the pressing problems in their life. Everybody has the problems. For the except for the rare yogi, everybody should have a set of problems, and you start tackling those problems. Once you start tackling, you get very encouraged, and you see the ease of it, and it might arouse your curiosity, and you should start learning about it, because you don't have to be an Ayurvedic doctor or anything. Just learn enough to nourish yourself and your family. It's you don't Every person should not need to be an Ayurvedic specialist. It's just like cooking. Everybody should know how to cook, but you don't have to become the chef if you don't want to and manage a five-star hotel. This is not that you need to take it to another level, but enough
Mm-hmm.
to maintain health and happiness within your home.
Mm-hmm. And so I think I heard you say earlier that the best place to start would be your your kitchen, your very own kitchen. Yes.
That should
I
be your
think that's
shrine.
great.
That should be your
Yes.
Ayurvedic shrine.
Yes. Actually, I think you're right. I think everyone should have their kitchen be a shrine. It's that would be a beautiful thing, right?
And I think it is one of the most beautiful tools in a mother's hands, because all the little sleep problems, the small hurts and things that you deal with, stomach upsets, those would be a much easier breeze to get through, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, it's up to you how far you wish to journey. It's unlimited. The sky, the end point is meeting up with God. Like, you start with your stomach issue or mind issue, and you can stop anywhere you wish to. That's your personal choice. But if you never stopped, then you would experience extreme spiritual happiness and go to the divine, because that's the ultimate goal of Ayurveda.
Mm. Well, we have just scratched the surface, just a tiny, tiny little surface of Ayurveda. And I know there's so much more for people to learn. And I want to thank you, Mira, for coming on today and joining me. I learned so much more than I knew before our talk. And I want to be sure that we let people know how they can get in touch with you. Where can they find you so that they can learn even more about Ayurveda as a science?
The best place is my website, miraom.com, miraom.com. They can reach me through many ways, about Facebook, Insta, but message me. And I have many options. You can have a online consultation. You can join a short course. In these COVID times, I'm trying to make it it's nice to come and practically see. I mean, it's for those people, it's the best. It's a very hands and hands-on science. It's not very theoretical. I mean, it is theoretical, but until you really get into it, it's not the same thing. But still, we can do a lot, and hopefully in the future, people who take the courses, they can to come for a short retreat, because everybody's busy. So we have to come up with hybrid solutions where you learn most of the stuff by yourself, but then you come to get to experience it in a very cost effective manner, because you cannot learn something beautiful if it's not affordable. I think a
Mm-hmm.
gift like Ayurveda should be very accessible, affordable,
Mm-hmm.
doable.
Yes. Yes, that's amazing. That's wonderful. And I will make sure that I have the links to your website in the show notes for everyone so they can just go to the show notes and find those. And I want to thank you my curious listener, for joining me today on The Work In. And if you like what you heard and you want to know more, you can find all those links for today's episodes and other resources as well at elementalkinetics.com. All right.